All right. Good evening today, Greg. We're back at your little hut here, and this time normally we do this quite early in the morning, but we've had a bit of a shuffle around with our days, and we've made this a night podcast tonight. So yeah, it's good to be back again.
Perfect. Yeah, it's nice to see you again, Willie.
Yeah, and just on that, I see. Have we got any drink sponsors or anything in this last week?
Seems thirsty at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does. So anyone out there, we're definitely going to look for some sort of drink sponsor that we can look after ourselves and keep us refreshed, so it keeps our voices nice and crisp and clear while we're chatting. But just for today's podcast, I thought that we'd really touch on about pressure versus purpose in life. And like one of the first, I've just got a list of questions here just so I don't mess this up. But what's the difference between living with purpose and living under pressure?
Living under purpose, living with purpose is a big thing. You know, a lot of people can't find their purpose, but and it's sometimes purpose is something that'll find you. But the thing is what are you here for? And I think when you really find what purpose is, it really gives you. It's got to be in line with something you enjoy doing or something you're very good at. For instance, for me, I was in the concrete industry for 55 years, right? I can't say I loved it, but I enjoyed it. It was a physical challenge, but wasn't until I got into personal development, found out more about myself and how we operate as humans. Then I started realizing when I got to this was my purpose. I love and enjoy this, and I feel that this is what I'm here for. So that's what a purpose is like. And when you've got that, it means so much. You got it inside you. It's a heart thing. You don't. I think a good word Bob used a lot of the time, when you find your purpose and your passion in life and what you're doing, you never work again for the rest of your life. When people work, they're finding it, they have to do stuff. With a purpose, you don't have to do it. You do it because you really want to, you're enjoying doing it. You know what their end income is.
Yeah.
The pressure is a little bit different. You know, when you're putting pressure on yourself, we're now talking about an idea is, are you in control of you, or is the outside world in control of you?
Yeah. So with those that might be joining us for the first time, you said you love doing this. So Greg Jelas, maybe just a quick who you are. You've gone from concrete for 55 years, you were just saying.
That's right. 55 years in the concrete industry. It was something that I left school from and virtually was in it all my life. My father was in the game and I worked for him when I left school. And it wasn't until I got to late 30s, nearly 40 years old, that I come across personal development. John Keogh there was a seminar in Auckland. I went to it, and then from there it grew. He started talking about how thoughts become things, and started putting me down the line of understanding about how we think has a lot to do with everything to do with how our results and how things are happening in our lives. And then it just grew from there until I met Bob Proctor, and then it just took it to another level.
Yeah, and it's given you obviously a lot of purpose, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what is that purpose? My goal is, and the purpose is about helping others. That's really when I found out about myself, and then I found out when I talked to others how much it was helping them as well, and then I could see that. Then all of a sudden, I really got a hold of this thing and thought, wow, this is awesome. Again, a little bit of prior to understanding all this information, I guess there was a lot of ignorance. I mean, when you don't know the knowledge, you don't know it. It's ignorance. So I guess right back at the beginning, I wasn't really the nice type of guy. I was always trying to impress. Yeah. And when I found out more about myself, I realised I didn't have to do that. But I didn't know at the beginning. And this is where I know you, Willie, you run into a lot of young children, and I say, but also teenagers and people. Like we talked about a bit of it last week about that gap between childhood and then parents, being an adult.
Yeah.
And I had some thinking, a little bit of a thought about it over the week, and I thought, You know, it's really, it's at a time of life for every human, I guess, is when you leave childhood and go into adulthood, there's like this big gap that you jump and you're in the air. And if you've had good guidance at the beginning, you get through that okay.
Yeah.
But if you haven't had good upbringing or in the way of somebody caring for you, taking care, giving you good beliefs and understanding of who you are, and maybe negative environment, there's a good chance that you're going to drop down in that gap.
Well, you're just discovering it on your own, right?
Absolutely. You know yourself how many young people are in that situation.
Yeah.
You know?
And like you just said before there, you said like you didn't know. And so I always love that expression, like you don't know what you don't know until you know. And that's just, unfortunately, you're just going through the experience and you know now.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you can get that guidance earlier, and that's all we're trying to do by educating people, by creating these podcasts as well, just to help people maybe find out who they are, find their purpose earlier so that they can start living their life without those pressures and of living a life of unfulfilled, we can say.
It sounds a lot of woo-woo stuff, though, to be honest, Willie. You know, how many people would be watching this and going, oh, what are these guys? You know, have they gone into a cult or a religion or something?
Yep.
But I would have been absolutely the same. Right up until 39 years old, you would have had me saying the same sort of thing. But the realistic thing and the reality in life is we're here for a reason. You know, we're here, it's a journey. We were born and then we will die. There's nobody that we know of that's come back to tell us the story, right? That says, I remembered my life and everything was happening. I mean, there is different ones that talk about their other lives, but that's not where we're going with this. It's about understanding this journey where we are right now and where the things are, like you says. What about the pressures, why people are putting themselves under pressure? And there's a lot of people doing that right now.
Well, that can roll into our next question pretty much, and that's, do you think most people today are driven more by pressure than purpose?
Unfortunately, yeah, the people that are driven by pressure are not living within themselves. They're letting the outside world drive them.
Yeah, and I can admit that I've definitely been a person that's lived by pressure, and I always have said, yeah, pressure makes diamonds, and that's true. When you have a bit of pressure, if it's a positive pressure like we were just talking about, you and I before this podcast, if you've got the right pressure that's building towards a goal and your purpose, and it's been thought out, but I have been very pressure driven, and I sort of like that bit of a firecracker up my butt where I need that pressure. Oh, I've got a deadline here, right, I've got to get this out before tomorrow. And it does bring a lot of extra stress and pressure into life. And I feel that quite often I do feel like I'm that hamster in the wheel too.
Yeah, I tell you, you're saying that, it reminds me, especially like you, with pressure, how many times in the rugby game where you saw the opening, the gap, and the inside back had the ball and you're thinking, just get it to me, and look, I've got a gap. There's pressure.
Yeah.
You know, but it's good pressure because you're excited and you can understand if you can get the ball, you can move forward, and you're actually going to do something really good for the team, not only just for yourself but the team, and it's a win-win. So that's good pressure, but it's not like the pressure of somebody, you know, putting you under pressure by telling you to do certain things, and then you feeling the worst pressure most probably is not so much the people telling you what to do, it's that voice inside you telling you things that you should be doing and really putting commands on you. Now that comes back to the program that you'll always hear me talk about, because the program was the breakthrough. When you understand the program is that voice that's talking to you, and for the people that don't understand it, just stop now. It's that voice that's talking to you right now. That's it. That voice never stops. No. And that's where the program's involved in there. So when people put their pressure on themselves and beat themselves up, we were talking a little bit there before too, if you accidentally do something, spilt something or dropped something, you next minute, what do you say to yourself in that second? What do you turn around? And do you abuse yourself when that happens? Well, that's pressure. That's pressure on yourself.
Yeah, quite often it comes out that negative thought and, oh, you dummy, oh, what are you doing? Oh.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. And I think I was one of the worst in the world for it until I become aware of it.
And, yeah.
And guess what? Like you said, even though we are aware of it sometimes, it still happens within a second and not even thinking about it because that program is there. But the thing is to realize you've done it, and then you move on and say, hey, that I shouldn't have said that, or forgive yourself, or whatever it is, and just move on. But yeah, that's the main thing about those pressures, those two different things there.
It's amazing just how a natural quick reaction, or like we just said, oh, you dummy, or this or that, and how those words of reaction can become so harmful for yourself, but also for others. As I mentioned earlier on, I'd done one similar-ish with my young daughter, and I'd sort of burnt myself, and I was like, oh, idiot. And it's just like, why did I even say that? And I'd hurt her so bad, and she's off running off to mum. And it's just, yeah, it's amazing. That's that paradigm. That's that, oh, I've done something wrong, and so I'm just throwing it back at them. But with our next question, it's like, when did you realise the difference in your own life about for purpose and living with purpose?
Really, well, it didn't come straight away, that was for sure. But the change around was the moment that I went to John Keogh, and then he started talking about the mind and how, you know, exactly what we're talking about here now, and made me aware of it. Now, the funny thing is, you know, at 40 years old, you'd think, and most people would be saying right now, what do you mean you didn't know how you were thinking and that type of thing? Well, guess what? You most probably don't until you become aware of what's going on. So you've got to be thinking about your thoughts and how you're actually, just like we're talking about there, you do something. I'll tell you a good one is, I know sometimes I have to watch myself, and you might be a bit tired and you walk along. I've got a lean-to outside and it's very low. And a couple of times I've walked in there and I've hit my head. And instantly, just within an instant, that all of a sudden, all the positivity has gone out the window, right? You can't help yourself. And so when you're aware of who you are and what's going on, then you understand what you're doing all that stuff automatically. Right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what we're talking about, the program. So when I found that out about thoughts become things, what you think about comes about, all these types of things. And the big thing for me was, it wasn't all about luck. Luck wasn't what it was anymore. One time it was about, oh, well, they're lucky, they're born into a certain family, or those people are lucky, they do this and that. And you hear so many people talk about that. And then I realised it's not about luck. There's no such thing as luck. Luck is something that it's really about something that we're not aware of. You know, we get an outcome that we don't know how we got it, so we call it lucky. But the actual fact is when you become aware, you look at it and you think, oh yeah, I understand actually what happened there. It wasn't luck. It was just the way things turned out. And who knows what's good luck or bad luck? And so, and that was one of John Keogh's favourite sayings. Who knows what good luck or bad luck? Maybe it's good luck.
Yeah.
So that sort of thinking all of a sudden got me thinking, well, okay. And the nice thing about it was, when I started understanding that I have control of my thoughts and everything that's going on in my life, all of a sudden realised I could change that. You know, I could move. You don't have to be where you are. So anybody that's listening now, and they might be going through a hard time, and it might seem absolutely impossible what's happening. It could be crazy stuff. And the thing is there will be some good in it.
Yeah.
There will be some good in it. It sounds a little bit hard to believe right now, but the truth is there will be some good in it somewhere, because that's a natural law.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how bad it is, there's goodness. And the equal amount. So if there's a little bad, there's a little good. If there's a huge amount of bad, there's a huge amount of good. You've just got to define that and that's where you start thinking about, okay, if you start looking at that perception, which perception is one of our biggest higher faculties that we don't use enough of. But if you change the perception of how you see something, that's something that's really bad, and look at it, then when you become aware, you look at that bad thing and say, okay, what is the learning from this? Okay, what do I need to do to, if I'm not enjoying this, why has it come to me? Right, ask those sort of questions. And then what do I need, what is it telling me? and what do I need to go away from it, or what have I learnt from this? And especially a guy getting in my age and that, there's so many things that seemed at the time that were so bad, and I'm talking about people that we've lost, you know, that have moved on, that have died. I often talk about how in Christmas time my wife and I visit the graveyards, and there's a lot of graveyards we visit because they're mothers, fathers, they're our aunties, uncles, brothers, you know, that are out there, and we go and tidy up the graveyards on the Christmas day actually, because our children move off on their holiday early, so we have an early Christmas. So that day we spend a couple of hours doing that.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is why I'm mentioning this is one time we used to have Christmas with them, just like you and me are here, Willie. They're not here anymore. And you get to realise in life, no matter how bad things are, we will be gone one day. So it's just a lesson, and you've got to learn this is a journey we're on. And so having a purpose of why you're here and starting to understand life from that side of it, that makes it all worthwhile. You get a totally different outlook in life when you start realising who you are. You are in control of what's going on.
Yeah.
Don't let pressure come to you, and if it is, it might be like when I bang my head. It happens for a short time, and I've often asked myself, sometimes I've said to myself, how come I don't burst out laughing? Because I know some people do.
Yeah.
They hit their head and start laughing, maybe because they feel a little silly of what's happened. And that again is the paradigm, is the voice. But yeah, just that would be really the find that purpose. When you find that, then you've found a good idea that's going to help you a lot in your life.
Yeah, well, it's definitely making me think twice about a lot of the things that, am I living with? I'm always living with purpose, but as I'm getting older, I think the purpose or the goalposts, they shift. The direction shifts a bit more. You understand a bit more. You're learning more about yourself, and I just love that constant growth personally. But situations change. Who you are as a person changes. Your family, a lot of things can drive a bit of that. But as I'm learning, as I'm growing, I'm really enjoying the person that I constantly become. And if I keep dreaming and keep pushing towards something, it drives me to just I know that I'm on the right track. And you can feel quickly when you're not on the right track, or if you're getting too involved with something that doesn't quite align with where you're at. And I've noticed that recently, and I have made personal changes. But it's just like you can only have so much time to give. And we spoke about giving to community last week. That was an awesome podcast that we made. But it's like, if we're not giving to our own families and to ourselves as well, it can be a pretty pressure. That's what I felt, was that pressure, and not having my purpose really defined. And I've still got a long way to go, but I love having our chats with you, Greg, offline here, and then obviously once we're online here, just for others to hear, because it's a constant journey, and I've heard your journey, and you're constantly changing. I'm constantly changing, but yeah, you've got a really pretty defined big purpose, and I feel that I haven't dreamed quite big enough yet. That C-type goal that you keep talking about. And with our next question, it's like, where does pressure actually come from? Is it external or something that we create ourselves?
It's always something you're going to create yourself. When, like I say, if you actually know who you are and you've got control of your thoughts and how you're thinking and what's going on, the pressure's coming from inside. It's not coming from outside. But we allow it to, right? When we're not aware, and that's what Bob Proctor says, the biggest problem in the world is ignorance, not knowing. And it's so true. The more you think about it, it is. All the things that are going on now in the world with the fighting and the wars and all that, what is it? It's just ignorance. People not knowing, not realising what is actually going on. If they don't realise the bigger picture. Some people do. But everybody gets fooled into the idea of it's out of your control. It's whatever you focus on.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about it. I talked about it with a client the other day about the wolf. Which one are you feeding? Are you feeding the one that's causing the problems and the negativity in your life, or are you feeding the one that's the positive and helping you move forward in your life? And it's like the little child said, which one's going to be the biggest wolf? Well, it's going to be the one you're going to feed the most.
Yeah,
Right.
I love that.
So yeah, you've got to be realize that pressure comes within. So the sooner you know what's going on within your own minds and your thoughts and what's happening, and like I can't say it enough, is 90% of what's going on in your life is on automatic, and it's in the unconscious, or the unconscious, or I like to call it it virtually is unconscious, even though we call it the subconscious. Consciously aware, we're here, we're fine. We think we've got it, but that's where what we call the knowing doing gap works. We know it, but we're not doing it.
Yeah.
And that's because the doing comes from the subconscious, from the program, and that gives you your results. So if you're not getting the results that you want in your life, if you might be trying as hard as you like, and if it's not happening, well, it's just the program. It's as simple as that. It's crazy.
Well,
but it is.
just as you're saying this, I can hear my little voice saying to me right now, and there's quite a few things that I know it, but am I doing it? No, this little voice is controlling me. I'm letting it control me, and that's that choice. So, yeah.
So one of the things, while we're into that, because we're talking a lot about, maybe for some people that are into fitness and maybe into your side, Willie, is just regard back to what we've been talking about, back into that, right? It's the people that have maybe got a little bit more weight on than they want themselves, or maybe they got a lot of weight on. Maybe their fitness isn't, they're out of breath and all this type of thing. Well, this is the same stuff. We're talking about the same stuff. You know, you've got the voice that's talking, you've got the program that's running. It's about getting to know who you are, and then when you get to the fitness side of it, you can then attack that fitness in a whole new manner. The thing is, we were talking about like purpose. Why I'm so deep about my purpose is because I've studied it and looked at it in so many ways, because I always keep asking the question, why is that? Why do I like helping people? And a lot of people could look at that and say, oh, well, that's a bit of the old ego coming in, Greg. You know, you just want to be looking good to help other people. No, that's not what it is. It used to be. It would have been definitely in my earlier days when I wasn't aware of who I am. But you know what really makes me understand that that's what I love doing is because I realized when I was in those ignorant stages and I didn't know, when I got to learn this new stuff, then Keo come along and just at that time, and I was in a pretty good space in my life. You know, I had a great family, I had a great home, I had great business running, so I wasn't really looking. I always say I could have done with it. Most probably what got me looking is I'd have liked a little bit more cash, right? And then I found out after a while when I got into mine that all I needed to do was talk to a financial advisor, and I could have easily fixed that problem because the earning wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
But guess what? I wouldn't have listened. I wouldn't have, if somebody says, Greg, you're fine, you're doing well in life, all you need is a financial advisor and save a little bit of that money that you're earning and you're wasting. I wouldn't listen to them. Why? Because my program was playing.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't until I got this message about thoughts become things. What you think about comes about. You are responsible for what's going on in your life. And when you understand that really deeply, you start knowing that, wow, you know, I can change. I can do anything. And when you actually find out which is true, that we are unlimited beings. We can do anything. Have a look at what's going on in the world and what's been invented and the things that we're using, this AI and stuff that we go. It's fantastic. Now, a lot of people would look and say, I can't do that. No, rubbish, you can. You aren't interested in doing that right now. You're absolute genius in your own angle of whatever you want to do. So the purpose, really, when I got back to it, was why do I like helping people? It's because I appreciated what it was like when somebody come along and helped me.
Yep.
And that is where and this is something we haven't talked a lot about, we've talked with you, Willie, since the day one, is gratitude. Right? And I was so grateful that somebody cared and was out there doing something that actually helped me change me.
Yep.
Right? And then then when I got to help, that I could help others doing that and help them, that's why I was doing it. And then I thought, I love this because it's a win-win. I feel good because I'm helping others, and I love seeing other people feel good. And anybody that knows, that's worked with me, knows what it was like. And then just the information. It's not my information. It's information. And Bob used to say it's not his information. It's just good information through study is what gives you all this information. And podcasts like this, where you hear it and say, maybe it'll work.
Yep.
So you've got to look then back into your fitness. And if you want your health, you want good health, you want good fitness. That's where you want to start realizing it all starts with the mind. And if you want a fit body and a healthy body, you've got to start thinking that first and start becoming that, and then do the work. And when you're finding the hard moments in the work, when you've got a good attitude, you've got a purpose, you know why you're there, you know what you want to achieve, and you know all these little terror barriers, things that are trying to turn you around and say, no, stop, go back, I've had enough. That's what we call a terror barrier. It's where we've made the mind, our little program, feel uncomfortable, and it's saying, get out of here, we don't want to be near this stuff going on. Get me back to where I was comfortable before. And the comfortable isn't going to lose the weight. The comfortable isn't going to get you fit. The comfortable isn't going to get you, running into that sport and doing really well in that sport.
Yeah, because another thing is like the, what do they call it? If it's important, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. and I feel on that one there is people will say to me, oh, Willie, I'd love to train, or I'd love to do this with you, or I'd love you to make a program, but I just don't have the time. And I'm like, I think of that as like, do they have the time? I think they must be able to find time for themselves. Is this an excuse, or is it not important enough for them right now? What's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting. I can do that in two ways. One is exactly like that. I haven't got time, or I could say I haven't got enough money. Same thing. So what are you saying in that? The truth is you've got that time, and you've definitely got the time. You're going to use it anyway. So what are you going to use it on? And like I've said to you, Willie, before, sometimes when somebody says I haven't got time and I can't be at your event with you, virtually what they're saying is I care more about where I'm going than I do care about being with you.
Yep.
Right? Your time, my time is more important doing something else. Now, the actual truth is if you actually listen to it and realize, is it better to go to Willie and just do that extra hour fitness that's going to make me feel better, or was it better to go and see a friend or drop off at the bar and have a couple of drinks because you promised a mate that you'd be there? Not everybody's going to be doing that type of thing, but there's other things. People would say, oh, well, I had to go and see my auntie or something. There's some things that you do have to go, right?
Yep. It happens.
You have to go to the doctor, or you have to, there's things that you really do have to do. So it does happen.
That's those micro choices each day, right?
Yeah, but most of the time, they're not really valid excuses. And money's the same thing. People say, I haven't got enough money. I haven't got money in it. Now, you've got the money. What did you spend it on? Yep. And the best way is go back and have a look at your last year's statements.
Yep.
You can tell you exactly where you've been spending your money. And a lot of the time it's been on absolutely stuff that's worthless. It hasn't been moving you forward in your money account. It's been actually moving you backwards because you've been buying it on doodads and things that are not really necessary. But it's a spending. It's the idea of spending. And so the paradigm around money is no different to sport or health. The money paradigm's the same. I know that people have earned big money and they've ended up spending and still had no money at the end of the year because they've spent that money the same. Lotto is a great way of what's happened there. With a lot of people that have won lotto. What has happened is they haven't got the money because they didn't know how to handle it. They didn't have the money paradigm for it.
Yeah, and the education around it.
They had the money, but they threw it away. They could have just invested it or done something which would have given them all the money they wanted for the rest of their life.
To live their life and their
lifestyle.
lifestyle. Yeah.
So that's health is no different. You're talking the same thing.
Well, this is awesome just to talk about purpose, and I hope that people do want to reach out and start to talk to you, Greg, about finding their purpose, finding their whys, finding their questions that they'll ask themselves, like, who am I? Who am I really? And how that, if they start to have that visualized with you, worked out with you. I know you've got your Wednesday night, you have your, explain that to us, the webinar.
The 90-minute webinar, which I go through it all pretty well, what we're talking about, more in physical with demonstrations of what's going on. And we talk through a few different things there.
Yeah, so if anyone that is interested, that does want to work on themselves in a great way around the mindset and the mind shift that they can start making positively in their lives, look below on the links down below. You'll have Greg's where to go to, the pages. You'll also have mine around the fitness, the wellness, the lifestyle on that part of it down below as well. And at the end, that's another 30-minute wrap up for us today, and about living with purpose and pressure and how that can look, and the pressure versus purpose. So it's a very good way to be able to have a think about where you're at right now, everyone, and maybe start asking the questions as well. And if you want to know more, get in touch with Greg, get in touch with myself if you're looking around that fitness, and I can definitely point you in the right direction and give you ideas too, and hand you over to Greg Jelas around that mindset.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll catch up next week, Greg. Who knows what day, what time, but I'm sure we'll make it happen, and we're on a roll here, so let's keep this going.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Willie.
Awesome. Cheers,
Catch
mate.
you next week.
See you next week.